Jason, Christoff, thank you for joining me in the trenches.
Jerem, thanks for having me back. I appreciate the work you did, and you do. And I sent out a great, one of your great interviews yesterday to my email list.
The feeling is mutual. I appreciate the work that you do, Jason, and I think it's very pertinent, particularly now, post-COVID.
Well, I don't think it's really ended. There's no post-COVID. It's just like COVID, and it just keeps going. Because you can see there's still a lot of people under the spell, but the spell is being cast for a lot longer, well before 2020, to have people believe in certain systems and structures that were weaponized against us heavily from 2024. But I don't think COVID is over. It certainly isn't over for the people that are dying suddenly, having heart attacks and strokes. And even those people, sometimes it's hard for them to put it together. And I think it was designed to be hard to connect the dots, where you did something in 2021 or 2022, and then, you pass away in 2025. If someone doesn't really know what's going on, obviously you can't make that leap that it was something that was done to you in 2022 that caused your death in 2025. And I think, the magical chemistry that is inside these devices or experiments was designed to be like that, to give this like long timeline between when you were when you were infiltrated and the time you went down. And mercury was used like that in the past, right? Mercury, this was like one of the assassin's favorite concoctions or favorite natural substances. There's a bunch of assassins not in the too far distant past that really liked to use mercury. They would go to a king's dinner, put a little bit in the food, and then the king would get sick and maybe pass away four days later. So you'd had that deniability that, hey, it wasn't me. He's just naturally sick. He just happened to get sick and pass away. So.
Yeah. So when you talk about COVID, it's more like a catchphrase.
Absolutely. It's not like it's symbolic, really, the word COVID. It's almost like symbols can carry a lot of information. This is the power of symbols in the human psyche. Like if I have a cross around my neck, it's not just a cross, is it? It carries a lot of other information in it about who I am, what I believe in, what conversation you might get into with me if you engage with me. COVID's almost like a symbol now, where it could mean 10 or 20 or even 30 different things. To me, it could mean 40 or 50 or even 100 different things. And I think the great thing about that symbolic meaning behind COVID, it gives us a way to navigate moving forward of all the issues we have to start looking at. We got to look at authority. We have to look at giving our power away. We have to look at mind control, psychological manipulation. We got to look at that a lot harder, because none of these things make any sense. I mean, poison can't make you healthier. Poison doesn't work like that. And you can see this is one of the foundational cornerstones of this con. And again, that cornerstone was laid a lot earlier than 2020. Everybody today thinks medicine is something that can kill you. And that, a lot of it could kill me, but a little bit will make me better. And it doesn't make any sense. And so how easy is it for a mind control expert to rule over a population in this way? Like, how easy is it for us to be tricked into believing things that make no logical sense whatsoever? Like, even like mercury teeth fillings, no one's thinking, which is another symbolic representation of COVID, is we've given up thinking. This is why debate was removed from school. So we do have the framework to dig our way out of this. But again, one of the foundational cornerstones of the COVID con was, just make it stop and let me get back to my self-gratifying pleasure cycles. I'll do anything to get back to my travel. I'll do anything to get back to my job, my security, my safety, my routine, up to and including throwing a toxic arm dart into myself. And so we have to address our complete obsession with pleasure cycles, and basically no one wants to face the hard day. We're getting a little lazy, and basically the price of freedom is constant vigilance. Vigilance takes a little bit of effort. No one wants to put the effort in. So we are where we are, and hopefully we can dig our way out of this.
Why though? Why is it like that, do you think?
I think the human brain and body, the system we have, we're designed to survive. We need leaders. We need followers. We're designed to mimic and emulate and copy the most repetitive content of our environment. So we're built for mind control. Someone's like, oh, how does someone mind control a human? I'm like, well, we're like mind control. We're mind control on legs. This is how our nervous system works. This is how a child mimics and copies and emulates the behavior of their parents so that they can fit in to the tribe. And if the tribe's biting the heads off live chickens as a morning ritual, you're going to bite the head off a live chicken every morning, because this is how we're built. And I don't know if what we call the Freemasonic Order or the ruling group, sometimes I wonder if that ruling group started out as an altruistic group trying to help people. Because I know right now, if someone evil phoned some people in the truth movement, let's just take Alex Jones, and the person who's evil said, look, Alex, look, I'm just going to be honest with you. We've tried this. Humans don't change. You can't help them. That you can't save them. You've been trying to save them for 30 years, Alex. You can't. Trust me, we have 3,000 years of research on this. You can't do this. So we actually were like you at one time. We tried to help people, and they can't help themselves, no matter how much help you give them. So we decided to form the Freemasonic Order secret societies because they're unhelpable. So come on our side and we'll pay you. We'll take away your $1 trillion fine. Wasn't it a $1 trillion fine that they gave to Alex? I think it was.
Yes. And it's stupid.
I know. It doesn't even, that kind of money, that monetary fine makes no sense whatsoever.
But that's why it's a show.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is always the way it's going to be. I don't know, but it baffles me that people still believe in some of these illogical, irrational, and these fantastical concepts. It baffles me every single day. So I don't know where it's going to go. I know it's been like this for a long time. Obviously, I mean, look at the story of Jesus. I don't know. Like, I just want, the truth community to be like, oh, Jesus isn't real. He never existed. The way they attack you. But even if it's just a story, I mean, look, think of the story where he's walking up. Obviously, he's got some injustice done to them. And all people do is line the roads and watch him with the cross and the crown of thorns. And they don't do anything. They don't run out, and I guess some people ran out and, bared the cross a little bit to help him. But that's not really what he needed. Let me help you, let me bear the cross a bit for your brother so that it's easier for you to get up on the cross. We'll just spear you in the side when you're almost dead. I mean, these kinds of stories, number one, they're disempowering, right? I mean, there's a truth teller, whether he was real or not, Jesus, and then the state killed him. I mean, that alone is not good programming whatsoever if you're a truth teller. So whether they're allegories, stories, real life events, it seems that this is what we're involved in here is sort of a cycle. And I would love to break the cycle. I just don't know who's with me. I know we were really getting there, in, say, 2024, there was more people exiting the system than I've ever seen before in my lifetime. So there was hundreds of millions of people going for the exit, leaving the system, and there was tens of millions in the US saying, you know what, it's government. It's not really a red or blue issue. And they're like, we're just going to walk out on the idea of government. Then this Pied Piper came in with the magical flute, and I saw all the people going for the exits get, turned around and plowed back into the system. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I thought we were done outsourcing our power to the system. And they're like, no, we love this Pied Piper. He's telling us all the right liaria. And I'm like, okay, so you just accept it. You don't get upset. You observe it. And basically the foundation is for me, okay, given what I see, how do I protect myself and my family? And then once I have that strategy in place, then I try and move that strategy out to others. If they want to listen, I'm not going to push it down their throat.
It's something that I've observed, that when Trump came in, suddenly, people went back into the sort of established narratives. Now it's a lab leak and there was a pandemic and digital ID is cool again, as long as it's, coming via the border. And it doesn't matter what he does, the can will be kicked down the road.
What baffles me even more, Germ, is who's organizing all this? I mean, it is hard to turn that many people back into the system where they're going headlong out of the system only months later. You get a couple high emotional impact situations going on in the US, like Butler, and everybody's like, he's got to be against the deep state. Like, all the evidence is there. But who can organize such a turnaround? It's almost like it would have to be AI on its own to coordinate all this stuff. I mean, some of these things, everything, we'll just let it all hang out here in the stupidity lane. But everything from The Simpsons, like doing the predictive programming 15, 10, 5 years before things happen, that's showing up on The Simpsons. Like, what's really going on here? And I'm not saying I'm confused or depressed or disoriented or I've given up or I'm just going to babble here just for the sake of babbling. I'm just saying, doesn't anybody else find it a little bit too complex to mentally control this many people if we were to assume it's only humans planning all this? I mean, it's planned down to the nth degree, everything from the photographer being in the front stage of the Butler incident, the flag was flying over, the fist right at the perfect time. So yeah, I mean, it's very complex to get people believing in government again. And then you see the narrative of social commentators, let's say the Hodge twins. Do you know the Hodge twins?
Yeah.
And the discussion about getting away from government as a system, that is being incinerated. So now people just talk about my side is doing this. And once we've lost the plot that we're back in the system 100%. So the government ran ruckshot over absolutely everybody on both sides of the aisle up until 2024. And then somehow they managed to boomerang us back in, or we're taking another mental kick at the can. And it's obvious that we shouldn't have done that. And it's going to be more obvious, in another 3 years. The Trump hangover, the hopium hangover is going to be severe in everybody. And everybody's going to be hanging their heads that they support a government again. But that's where the next person comes in on the shiny white horse over the horizon with the sword in the air to save everybody. And if we don't understand how these things work by now, I don't know if we're going to I don't know if the population is ready to grow up and put on their adult pants and say, I got to just rule myself, keep my own money. Like, how could anybody argue with that concept? that waking up in the morning where no one's trying to poison you off the planet and you have all your money in your back pocket to navigate your life for you and your family, how is that a bad idea, or an idea that no one would think would make their life better? It baffles the mind.
I'm wondering though, Jason, if this is just the nature of the human psyche. Imagine if 70 or 80% of people at any given time were out of the system. Perhaps there'd be chaos.
Yeah, I guess we don't really know, but we're in all the movies though, Germ. I mean, Mad Max, and we're told constantly by media that the government will save the day. The government's the good guy. We all know the CIA has, I think it's a huge budget. It's in the hundreds of millions to work with Hollywood in order to prop up the idea that if we don't have government, everything will collapse. And I mean, we know the famous memes. What would happen if we didn't have government? Well, bad people would, kill us and steal our money. And I'm like,
who'd build the roads?
Yeah, who built the roads? Well, what's happening now? My friend builds roads for a living. It's not the government. The government pays him to build the roads. The government doesn't have any road building expertise. There's a friend I know who paves most of the roads in my old home province of Ontario, Southern Ontario. It's not the government, it's my friend and his company. So again, if people would say, well, imagine the anarchy, and anarchy just means no rulers. It doesn't mean there's no rules, but to be like, imagine people would kill us and steal our money. And of course, what do you think is going on today? It's almost like the human condition that we're trying to avoid talking about is that humans love lies that make them feel good. All my friends, not all of them, I hate using that word, most of them, they're not like me, right? So am I crazy or are they crazy? I've never really figured that out, but they seem to really love lies that make them feel good. Like your doctor who wears the white butcher coat. Same butcher coat as the guy that cuts up the meat down at the grocery store. He's a health expert, although he smokes or she smokes, and not all doctors smoke, but some in my town, in my old town of Cornwall, Ontario, Canada, smoke. They're overweight. There's smoking section outside the hospital as you walk in the hospital, and there's chocolate bar chip and pop machines everywhere. The patients are being fed food not fit for a maggot to consume, would choke a maggot. And people like the lie. These are the health experts. They're here to take care of you. So there's something about human nature that they like feeling safe and secure, even if you lie to them. And you can see a lot of people can be lied to and they don't react as long as the lies are that fake feel good kind. And I don't know. I'm not starting to question. My life is better financially and romantically and health-wise by facing the hard day. But if you're not willing to face the hard day, what are your options? I guess you just seek out the lies that please you the most, that make you feel safe the most. If you're adverse to hard work, I guess the only other option is that you look for the authority figure that's going to tell you the best lie. And that's what elections are. And people sometimes don't understand that there is a business to politics where you are buying a service. You might not understand that you are buying a product. And to the average person, what they're buying is the best liar, the lies that make them feel good. And in exchange for lying to the public and giving them a false sense of security in the world, you can have anywhere between 25 and 55% of their income, plus maybe another 15 or 20% and various other hidden taxes, levies, and fees. And so it's like a business. What lies are the best lies to be told in this 4-year period in order to keep people going into the small little area with the shower curtain and pretending they have control over their lives?
But isn't that part of, as you said, the human condition? It's a design mechanism to give people meaning and purpose, even if it isn't true.
Yeah. And I guess if you, like when I get up in the morning, and see, that's the thing, it's very different for me. I've been an entrepreneur since 31 years I've been in business. So I graduated McGill University, which is Canada's still top university, in 1994. And within 6 months, I had my first hard asset business. I was making great money. And when I get up in the morning, if you're a businessman and you want to be successful, which means provide service for your community in a very moral and ethical way, you have to get up for yourself, not because someone's lying to you and making you feel good. So I mean, I understand the human condition. I don't know if it's the human condition, because most people today are really horny for the best lie coming from the best liar, only because they've had that channel of creative energy flow stolen from them. Where, yeah, okay, well, maybe I don't know what it's like to have a meaningless, futile, and directionless existence, to the point where the lies might be the only thing that gives me security and safety in day. Maybe I don't know what that's like. And can we say it's the human condition? I don't know. I don't know if we would get so many directionless, empty, and futile pathways followed by humans if the government school system wasn't also involved in our society, which is there to, they document it. It's not, I mean, read the book, Weapons of Mass Instruction by John Taylor Gatto. The destruction of the children's creativity and innate human potential is the goal of the system in order to produce this very depressed and robotic workforce. So maybe when you're channeled through that system and you develop this learned helplessness, maybe the best liar is one of your only options. But that's why I try to I teach entrepreneurship. I teach empowerment principles. I teach documented strategies to remove yourself from the learned helplessness cycle. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to reach as many people needed to hit that critical mass as we all like to get there, where we don't have to wake up expecting something bizarrely disastrous to happen to us.
You reminded me now of that song by Pink Floyd, The Wall.
Which one?
The Wall.
Oh, yeah. That's an old one. And, you know, it does, I mean, that's what the school system is for. So I think humans are inherently good. What I found in my studies in mind control is that humans can be inherently good or bad. And if they're inherently bad, if you look into the environment and where they live or where they grew up, that inherent badness actually served them to help them survive. So I believe we're sort of like a walking Swiss Army knife. I believe there's a lot of, I believe our Wi-Fi that we use today was developed hypothetically from how humans transmit and download information, not from themselves, but from sort of the ether, as they would say. And I think all the options for human behavior are not stored in us, but are stored elsewhere. And I believe our internal chemical changes, like I remember getting beat up when I was a kid. And basically, I downloaded different behavioral options to deal with that situation. And thank God I did, because the defense of my body, the defense of my territory, I had to get violent or I would have died. So go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, is that what you label as self-sabotage?
The self-sabotage, I believe, there's portions of that inside our adapted, like we have adaptive behavior systems where, yeah, we can those adaptive behavior systems can become sort of set in concrete. And then after the threat is being removed, we can still be reacting to the danger long into the future with behaviors that don't serve us. That's what self-sabotage is. But what I think what I was really trying to say is that humans they could be good or bad. And I think if they're placed in bad environments, given bad food, shown violent video games, shown violent movies, John Wick 1 through 4, The Equalizer 1 through 3, I think the chemical changes that happen in our body, the downloaded behaviors that may or may not be coming from somewhere else, they'll turn us what we call evil. And I do believe that the people ruling us know that. And I think this is why they drown us in the bad food. They drown us in the ugly and rotting trash fire media. And I think we're acting out evil behaviors a lot more than the natural environment would cause in us. I think we have an unnatural environment, and I think whether the chemical changes happen in our body because we're given bad food or because we're watching a lot, violent media, whether it's chemical changes inside of us because of what we're exposed to, or like I said, I like to call it the God's Wi-Fi or the devil's Wi-Fi. If we're put in fearful environments and we pick up the devil's Wi-Fi as a defensive response to the disastrous environment we're in, I think this is just part and parcel again of the human condition. So if we want humans to be peaceful, if we want humans to be happy and satisfied and innovative and inventive, we have to understand the environment in which we live, whether it's chemical or whether it's devil's Wi-Fi versus God's Wi-Fi. We have to commit to creating environments for children, infants, mothers that is always peaceful, always beautiful, always symmetrical, always supportive. And then if there's a natural disaster that happens, we should expect some very weird and dark behaviors from people in and around that disaster area. But I do believe that the ruling groups know what I'm talking about, and they've purposely manufactured an evil environment so that we become evil. And I think one of their goals is that I'm just going to be honest with people here. The bloodlines are about successively abusive families. Because in a fight, the one who kills first usually wins. I think that's the sort of personality we're dealing with. And I believe they've maintained control because they've almost changed their genetics to be psychopathic. And I think they know that. And the easiest way to hide that germ is to create an environment for us where we become sort of pseudo-psychopathic so that when they operate out in the open, it's really hard for us to have a reference point to point them out or label them as defective.
The concept of evil fascinates me, though, Jason. Let me play devil's advocate, if you'll excuse the pun. But it's never you who is evil. It's always the other person.
Well, wasn't George Soros's son actually said that he was going to be more evil than his dad? Or you might want to look that quote up.
No, that's fascinating.
Yeah. Was it Soros? I think it was Soros. But yeah, you're right. I think someone like Bill Gates just wakes up. I think he is part of one of these bloodlines. I believe he was abused. I believe they know wholeheartedly. It's not a complicated line of cause and effect to figure out. If you abuse a child, you will get a Bill Gates. You will get a George Soros. I just think they scramble for surviving. I think that they scramble for security. I think they've been programmed to believe it's either us or them or me or you, that someone has to die, someone has to suffer, and it's not going to be anymore because I was so abused as a child. If anybody's going to suffer, it's going to be you, and it's better for me to coordinate getting rid of you before you find out how evil I really am, or you might come and get me. So I do think the psychology of the traumatized child is heavily involved in the blood lineage of the ruling groups that lord over us. And I think you're right. I don't think any of these people, like, I don't think Peter Thiel, Dan Dix sort of found him. Yeah, or Elon, or Peter Thiel was run down by Dan Dix, not run over, but Dan Dix of Press for Truth tried to interview him in the Bilderberg area. I think it's in Geneva this year. And I don't think Peter Thiel knows exactly how evil he is. I'm not too sure. I think he believes he's just a savvy businessman reacting to the market, and that he's got loans from people he didn't know personally, and that things are really going his way, and that he's going to be set for life, and he can't wait to go to the Monaco Grand Prix and stay on the most expensive yacht. I don't know if these people understand just how evil they really are. I just tell people evil is live spelled backwards. So my definition of evil is anything that sort of destroys life earlier than its natural timeline toward death. That's what I really believe. So sort of a premature death caused by another. We all die, so I don't really think that's evil. But if I were to cause the death of another human prematurely by my own hand, I believe that's evil. And you're right. I don't think any of these people, like when I look at, say, Donald Trump and him posturing just yesterday about he wanted an unconditional surrender from every inhabitant of Iran. I don't know if he realized, I mean, I'm sure someone told him to say that. I am not going to let anybody believe that. I believe that he's in control of anything. I believe he's in control of absolutely nothing. Someone told him to say that, but I don't think it dawns on him how evil that declaration really is. I think he's been accustomed and desensitized to his scripts to the point where I think he just believes he's got to read his scripts or they're going to flush him down the toilet. And, that's the ultimate form of mind control, right? Threat to your life.
I don't know if you know the story, The Handmaid's Tale. Those in control can inflict severe harm on others while claiming that it's for the good. They're not doing something evil. They will appreciate this later on.
Mm. And this is common. I'll be honest with you. The companies I've owned or partnered in or mentored to open have grossed $250 million. And I don't have anywhere near that, $250 million. I don't personally have. I have enough to eat well and not worry too much. But because of my traumatic past, I do worry quite a bit. But when you have a certain amount of power, and this is what the benefit of being a business person is, which they rob from people, is you learn how to manage power. When you get power and no one's taught you how to use it properly, you're going to end up like the person in that film that you just described, The Handmaid's Tale. They don't know how to manage or use power without hurting people. And this is another reason I try to preach entrepreneurship. And a lot of people, but we live in an anti-entrepreneurship, an anti-abundance, and an anti-independent society now, where people actually look at me sometimes, they call me a grifter. They call me, okay, so here's
controlled opposition, Jason.
Controlled opposition, right? Yeah.
That's the catchphrase.
Yeah, because I support myself. So I haven't worked for anybody since I graduated from McGill University. I've given value to the community. It's not like it's a forced jab clinic where I'm going to steal your money and give you something you don't want. If you don't want my service, You don't have to take it. It's not mandatory. It's not compulsory. So what I'm trying to say is that the average person today, once they get power, no one's taught them, there is no structure in our society so you can rein in that power. And a lot of the people that are in these positions, they're doing great harm to people. They're artificial positions. Like Bill Gates didn't invent the computer or the code or anything like this. The Apple iPhone, yada, yada, yada. These are all, technologies given to them. They're not corporations. They're corporations in the sense that they're on the stock market. But what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of people given power in our society that don't know how to use it. And when you have power and you don't know how to use it, generally people will start doing some pretty evil things to maintain their power. And we've lost the plot. Our leaders look at the leadership. Do you think JFK would ever call for the unconditional surrender of the entire country? Right. Because it's a stupid thing to say. So idiocracy has gone, it's gone live is what it's gone with. And of course, the psychology of that is that we mimic and emulate and mirror the leader as the human nervous system is. That's what we're born to do.
Jason, sorry to butt in, but somebody might push back and say, no, it wasn't idiotic. It was actually 4D chess. It was a clever strategy.
Well, as Gareth Icke said, you could have someone in the Maha movement, catch Donald Trump in bed with with your wife, and they're going to be like, ooh, 5D chess, art of the deal. These people, and of course, those are the catchphrases given to those people to excuse absolutely everything. Don Gotti, I don't know if you remember John Gotti. I don't know if you remember John Gotti. They called him the Teflon Don back in the 80s. He was unfortunately, he's a mobster in New York City. He was killing people, and then he went to court. Nothing stuck to him because everybody, even the judge, was afraid of him. They called him the Teflon Don. Nothing stuck. And I said, just forget John Gotti. Teflon Don is Don Trump. Nothing he does that is against the Constitution ever sticks to him. And people used to at least defend the Constitution. I know it's a piece of paper. I know. But again, how can we not see the relay race where the Constitution is being eroded and eroded over time by leaders on both sides of the aisle? It's a relay race to destroy America. Why would they want to destroy America? Because when you destroy things or you destroy the rights of the people to defend themselves against intrusion, you can steal their stuff. This is about theft, ladies and gentlemen. It's about theft. That's it. Like in Canada, the seniors are still getting the jabs. They're dying left, right, and center. People are like, well, why are they doing that? Well, because in Canada, the average senior cost the government $5,000 a month, Canadian. It cost them in a direct payment, and it also cost them in healthcare payments. So every senior in Canada is $5,000 a month. So you start getting rid of hundreds of thousands of seniors, it's about theft. And it's going to not be mailed out, not be sent to the senior, so it stays in the government. So someone's like, oh, the government's going to get wealthier. And then, of course, they are so, misdirected. They think they are the government. They might even think, well, that's good for me because my government's getting richer. No, they're not. They're just going to take the savings and steal it out in the open and give it to their friends in another country, cash the check, and then show up on their Learjet and split the loot. That's all these. You couldn't steal $20 cash from the government. You can't. But you can write a check for like Justin Trudeau wrote a check for $850 million to Gavi when the pandemic, the false emergency went out. So you can't steal 20 cash, but you can write a check for 850, send it to someone, no accountability, no traceability, cash it, and everybody splits the loot. Right? Like this is what's really going on. So the human condition, again, people want to believe that that $850 million that Justin Trudeau gave to Gavi, people like the lie that it's there to help people in other nations get the life-saving vaccine, when really they're just stealing it. Period.
So majority of humans are prone to self-sabotage, as you've highlighted, due to fear-based responses. Why then, Jason, do you think, in the words of Matthias Desmet, around 30% are not?
I think they'd love to know that answer. And I think that's why they're very interested in the data, because they want to have a very fast computer analysis center analyze my data, analyze your data. They're going to know which 30% didn't take, didn't fall for that liarrhea. And they're going to try and find out and reverse engineer it. A lot of times, for me, I didn't take it because of my trauma. But I know people who did take it because they had trauma. So there was something where I was traumatized as a kid really badly. And then one day, I just said, I would rather die than be bullied again. And that's when it went really, really bad for bullies who would come near me. Really, really bad. But like I said, the self-sabotage is I'm still working on turning that violent reaction off. That's what self-sabotage is about. So when a loving person comes near me and I have these defenses up, I can be easily triggered to defend myself when there's no need to defend myself. But basically, I saw the government trying to bully everybody, and I've always seen the government in that way. So I refused to comply because the trauma was a catalyst to me becoming strong. But a lot of my friends were also traumatized as kids, and it was a catalyst for them to be a people pleaser and to follow and to not rock the boat and then to try and fit in with the crowd. They could never feel safe because of their attack, fear, panic, and terror as children. They always need someone around them to reassure them. And with me, I actually said, in the alchemy of the trauma that changed my life, I said I'd rather be alone and die than be a member of a group and hurt myself because I'm too weak to stand alone. So I don't know what the chemical ingredient is, right? The magical etheric ingredient where fear turns you into something more moral as compared to where fear turns you into something more malleable like a child. Trauma for me catapulted me toward adulthood, where most people, it can trap people in a permanent childhood. They become infantilized. And that's why I became a business person too. I didn't want anybody else controlling me because I was so adverse to being around people who were trying to control me through violence or coercion or other things like that. So I'm not too sure. I think a lot of people that said no did have harder childhoods. And somewhere along the line, it transformed them through alchemy into some, unmovable rock.
So self-sabotage is a consequence of fear-based responses, which can lead to sort of self-destructive patterns. What then, in your view, Jason, are some practical or pragmatic attempts to switch those self-destructive patterns into perhaps success-oriented patterns?
Well, a successful and peaceful life, which is what we all want, it can sort of only happen. There's 2 or 3 important parts of the brain with people who can't break out, or people who can break out of self-sabotaging cycles. So there is a part of the brain just behind the eyebrows and the forehead called the prefrontal cortex. That has to be activated for you to even dream of a better day. So for you to, a lot of people don't know this, for you to sit down and think about something good happening in your life and then sort of put pen to paper and try to work toward it, that's the prefrontal cortex. So it's where hope lives. It's where dreaming lives. We call it the dream machine. Is it well lubricated, or is it seized? And all fear will shut that off. So everything, all the characteristics that are good, that you want inside a good, successful life, they'll all kind of be manifested out of this part of the brain. Now, don't forget, this is what they call the temple. They call it the temple because this is sort of the part of the brain where you can access maybe God's Wi-Fi as well. Maybe the router for God's Wi-Fi is up here, and the router for the devil's Wi-Fi might be in the back of the skull. So you have to make sure that the prefrontal cortex, the front of your brain, the most evolved part of your brain, is actually getting blood and actually getting electrical flow. And our engineers of doom, or architects of doom, as Michael Tsarian likes to call them, they're aware of this wide array of attacks that can shut down the prefrontal cortex. So fear is the big one. If you are afraid, your prefrontal cortex activity goes really, really low, or it can actually go right off. So when you're watching John Wick 3 or John Wick 2 or Equalizer 1 through 3, watching it, like, it doesn't even really matter what you watch on. You'll see on your phone, like, how many, if you were scrolling your phone, which is very dangerous, and they will always put fear-based things in your feed. How many of the Air India crash did you see last week? Did you see any on your phone? Or do you scroll it? Right. They're doing that on purpose to shut your prefrontal cortex down, because that's all it takes. So a lot of people don't understand that not only can your body have a fight, freeze, or this fight or flight response from seeing the Air India disaster, and they'll put that purposely on your phone. You can have the fight or flight reaction if you're watching anything on Netflix. You can have fight or flight reaction from blue light after sundown. And there are things you can eat that also initiate the fight or flight. People are like, oh, I can see myself being afraid of scary thing on the TV or a pit bull chasing me. But coffee does the same thing. It activates the fight or flight. People are like, hold on a second. How does caffeine activate the fight or flight? Because the average person says, I understand if there's a mugger, fight or flight. Getting attacked by a pit bull, fight or flight. Now you're saying coffee, fight or flight. Yeah, because you have one fight or flight system, and it only kicks on when there's a threat to your lifespan, period. Caffeine is what's called an alkaloid poison. It's a natural pesticide that many plants, including some tea plants and the coffee plants, they use caffeine to kill bugs and kill other plants around them so they can get more sun. It's a poison. So this is the average person doesn't understand. Their job, your architects of doom, their job is to keep you in permanent fight or flight, so you can't dream of a better day. None of the good love, compassion, connection, because when you're in fight or flight, the blood goes from the prefrontal cortex down to the limbic system, or even farther down near your base of your spine to the reptilian brain. This part of the brain has no ability to think long term. It's notoriously low IQ, and it's very primal. You can't build a good life when you're in that all the time, in that reaction all the time. So this is why everything's poison. Your Teflon pan is poisoned. Take a Tylenol, that's poisonous. You microwave your food. They've taken microwave food and they fed it to animals. And basically the animals had these immune markers like they were being poisoned. So basically what I'm trying to say is that if you want to lower your hyper reactivity, or if you want to lower your self-sabotage cycles and, take the edge off and start experimenting in your own life, you have to understand poison is a huge part of it. Fear is a huge part of it. And even with a lot of my self-sabotage coaches and students in my Psychological Reprogramming Institute, because I do teach this online once per year to a whole class of students in my school. If you're poisoned, your brain, your best part of your brain is not in the game. Period.
Does your environment, like where you live, play a big impact on that?
Yeah, it really does. It can be everything from maybe the Wi-Fi router in the condo next door is up against the wall right near the head of your bed. How many blue lights do you have there? Because the blue light also activates, the body doesn't like the blue light, especially after sundown. You're watching TV, that's blue light. So the blue light comes in. You're also watching some scary murder show on Netflix. So you're always going to be in the fight or flight. And even, I remember I was coaching this one lady. And as coaches, we know repetition wins the day in terms of what your behavior is going to be. Repetition wins. And behind her, she was having a hard time, and I told her what to do to get out of it. But for some reason, the way the universe works, I would look at her painting behind her as she was talking to me. I said, "Can you turn around and tell me what the word in that painting says?" So she turned around. She never saw it before, but I could see it as soon as I turned on the Zoom camera. It said chaos. I said, "You walk by that every single day of your life. How many times do you walk by it?" And your subconscious is known to download it. And then it's going to sort of mimic behavior of an equal vibration that's parallel to that word. She didn't even realize. Everything that hangs on your wall, it's either low vibration or high vibration, positive inspiration, or it's going to knock you down energetically. So your house has to be designed as well in a way that uplifts and motivates and gives the positive reinforcement. That positive reinforcement, positive vibration that you're swimming in isn't there for your conscious mind. It's not there for you. It's there for the subconscious, and it's the main manufacturer of your behavior because it wants to be congruent with your environment in order to fit in. So if you live in a dark, shitty, and depressing environment, your subconscious will make sure you have that exact personality in order not to stand out in the tribe, because if you're happy in a depressed tribe, you're going to get attacked. If you're thin and muscular and overweight tribe, you're going to get attacked. And if you're abundant in a poor ass tribe, you're also going to get attacked. So the environment you live in, your subconscious will manufacture your ideas, belief, even change your brain function. If you're in a poor tribe, your subconscious will even shut down your prefrontal cortex to inhibit you from dreaming of a better day in order to protect yourself and make sure you fit in with the group.
But that's precisely why you feel so much better when you go into nature for a weekend, for example.
This is exactly it. And to be honest with you, nature has a beautiful vibration. But if you were to go to, say, the New York Cafe in Budapest, Hungary, go to that cafe and have some decaf tea and a nice organic salad there. And you tell me how you feel when you come out of that. If anybody wants to look that up right now. And not only will you look up the New York Cafe in Budapest, when you see the pictures, you will be uplifted, just the pictures, because it's that beautiful, an expression of innate human potential. And then understand that the same social engineers, that's why you got Starbucks the way it is, Dunkin' Donuts, Tim Hortons in Canada. There's square boxes full of unmotivated people serving poisonous garbage food. And again, the Wi-Fi capability, everything has a Wi-Fi capability. Everything gives off vibration. Our ancient ancestors know that. So when you're around low vibrational structures or systems or people or food, your body's going to mimic that as much as it'll mimic something that's higher vibration, something's motivational. I call it the uglification agenda. And if I was in North America my whole life, when I went to, say, Vienna, Austria, and if people haven't been to Vienna, please go to Vienna, because I would say they missed that on the bombing runs in World War II. You will never, ever believe what's in that city in your entire life until you go in person, because it's some of the most beautiful, inspiring, uplifting structures that I've ever felt in my life. And I literally felt like Superman walking in and out of those structures. It was so beautiful.
The elephant in the room, Jason, is finance, money. It tears people apart, though.
Well, number one of the biggest, I have a documentary coming out in November called Planet Mind Control. So you can learn about all this stuff, and you can watch it for free as well. If anybody wants to get that documentary, just email me at info@jchristoff.com so you can come to the free watch party. We do want to fit in with the tribe, and we're mind control on legs. We mimic, copy, and emulate the most repetitive content of our environment, the ideas and the themes. This is why in most movies, money and rich people are always framed as assholes and pricks. So yeah, I understand what you're saying, that money tears people apart. Well, the tearing apart things means tension or conflict. So the tension there is they've told you that having money makes you an asshole or a prick, while you'll honor people like Gates and Trumps and Bezos and Peter Thiel, who are billionaires. That's the tension. It's the tension from watching Titanic, where the hero's the poor guy, the rich guy's the asshole. In Equalizer, it was the same thing, right? Denzel Washington's so poor. He works at a hardware store in the movie Equalizer, and he only has one pair of shoes, and he cleans his shoes with a toothbrush at night because heaven forbid he gets a rip in those shoes where they separate because he can't afford an extra pair. Poor Jack Dawson, he's down not in the second class cabin, third class cabin. Every movie you'll see it doesn't matter if it's Liam Neeson with Taken, you can see he's poor. He lives in an apartment, and his ex-wife has, thrown him to the side for some rich billionaire who gives his daughter a horse right in the middle of a birthday party where he brought this really shitty present, right? It's always the poor guy is the noble guy, is the spiritual guy. So you will create that conflict. They want that conflict in you, that you need money, but they're going to program you to say if you love money or you work for money or you try to generate money, you're a grifter, you're an asshole, you're a prick. And so, yeah, it tears them apart, but the point is you don't have to go to Vienna. You don't have to go to any of these places, but you do need the vibratory imprint, the daily, multiple imprint on your subconscious. You need it hanging on your wall. You need beautiful things hanging on your wall. It could be pictures of your family, pictures that bring you great joy. Geometric, sacred geometry gives a beautiful vibration that attunes and lifts the vibration and frequency of the body higher, helps calm the system. So, just imagine what they're doing today. They have 10 years ago, everybody was wearing those hats that said obey. Some people have on their car in the decal, they have the vinyl decal, FU cancer. And the more violent imagery that you have in your life, some of my friends are wearing T-shirts with a fighter bomber dropping bombs in Vietnam. They don't even know why. They don't even know why it's for sale. But the people ruling us know that low vibration will always shut down a prefrontal cortex. We won't be able to dream of a better day.
And of course, going into nature doesn't have to be expensive either.
Yeah, nature. And that's the thing I love about being here in Latvia with Christine, my partner. She has a farm. We go every second week and work in the garden, make sure the fruit forest is good, make sure the gardens are good, cut the lawn, and just, separate and try and get back to that natural vibration to feel what it's like to be a natural human again.
I'm just quickly looking at a map here of Latvia. A lot of people won't know where that is. So it's between Estonia, Russia, Belarus, and Lithuania. And then you've got the Baltic Sea on the other side. Is that correct?
Yeah, and the Baltic Sea is nice. And, it's funny. It's great to, dive in deep to other people's cultures because they're running in the Baltic Sea. It is as cold as anything I've been in, maybe a little bit warmer than the Atlantic. But the people here are beautiful, natural people for the most part. Like everywhere else, you're going to have your bad folks, but they have open hearts. They're family oriented. There's lots of children everywhere you go. I mean, it's one of those towns where you're in a restaurant, kids, the kid could throw spaghetti on you from halfway, fork it over from the next table, or they'll kick a ball that hits you in the face. I mean, that's how many kids there are around in the community. You go to the park, it's full of kids, it's full of parents, it's full of hope. And it's just, and most houses here in the countryside and even lots in the city, they all have gardens and they all have cold cellars. And they don't worry as much because they've always had the food around. It's just sort of a natural comfort. And they've gone through the communism. They're communist Russia occupied Latvia, I think up until the 80s, potentially. And they're just people that know what it's like to have it hard, and their hearts are open, and they're very loving, very accepting, and very happy.
Okay, Jason, how can I follow your work?
I think the best thing is to just email me, because I have a private newsletter where I can say what I want to say. And I do post some things on social media, but it's best just to get on the newsletter. So email me personally at info@jchristoff.com. It's a single initial J. Christoff is Christ with an OFF on the end. So info@jchristoff.com. Doing Christ's work here. That's, I wasn't always doing Christ's work. I'll tell you, I was into destroying myself in an evil way, but somehow I picked up God's Wi-Fi signal and going the other way. And if anybody wants some of that information or different viewpoint on events of the day, that's the best way to get it from me.
Jason Christoff, thank you for joining me in the trenches.
Thanks for having me back on, Jim.